Hello, welcome to today's ChickQuest Adventure. We're so glad that you're here to join us today to learn about eggs and chickens and science. Remember, this session is sponsored by Grow Next Gen and the Ohio Soybean Council in partnership with educationprojects.org. All right, let's get started. Today, we're going to talk about technology uses in poultry and egg production. Remember at the beginning of our series when we talked about incubators and how incubators allow humans to help incubate chicks so that they hatch in 21 days. Well, at around days 7, 8, or 9, you can use some additional technology called candling to see if your eggs are viable. And what that means is if they are developing inside of the egg. Okay, unfortunately, I have some chicks that are close to hatching in our incubator. However, we can kind of show you what candling would look like. So let's take a look. All right, you guys, remember when we did candling earlier, we just used a camera flashlight on our phone. And remember, if your egg is liquid, which it would be at the beginning of chick development, you should be able to see really well throughout the entire egg. Because the egg is translucent, it allows light to permeate and travel through the liquid medium inside. If I were to candle my eggs, starting on day 8 or so in development of the 21-day cycle, I would see that there are some blood vessels and some other pieces that are beginning to develop inside of the egg. Let me show you what that could look like if you were to develop. If I see an egg that looks like this and has a concentrated red area, and you'll start to see that some veins are starting to come out and branch out throughout the egg. This is what I would look for as I was candling to make sure that my egg is viable and developing. If I see some of this traveling throughout the inside of my egg, when I candle the egg, I know we're in good shape and the egg is moving towards development. If, however, all I see is this instead of this, I know that my egg is not viable. And because it is not viable, I would take it out of the incubator so that it doesn't decompose inside of the incubator and potentially cause some problems. Let's take a look again. Remember, I would definitely see that there are some circulatory system development inside of the egg. So you would see a mass of red blood cells and some capillaries that are beginning to snake across the egg so that they can access the food in the amniotic fluid as the chick develops. Okay, guys, can you think of some other ways that you could use technology in poultry production or even around your house? What are some things as young scientists that you can do that could help you in livestock production or in agriculture? All kinds of things that humans do to help us provide food for our families are really cool. So remember, technology helps to replace nature when necessary as we're developing food for humans. Okay, here's some other things to consider. Remember we talked about an incubator replacing a hen as she sits on her eggs? What are some other things that we can do with egg products? As we're thinking about eggs, I want you to consider that there's some really good components. Remember, if it's a fertilized egg, this egg will develop into a chick in 21 days and hatch out. But if it's not a fertilized egg, we can use it for several other purposes. The main purpose, of course, is food and nutrition. Eggs are really healthy for you. And since Ohio is the eggs' #2 producer in the country, we're really good at producing eggs. But I want you to think about, once you take the inside out, what's left behind? Here are some cracked eggshells from my breakfast this morning. There's some really cool aspects of eggshells that we're going to talk about today. First of all, this eggshell right here is really composed of calcium carbonate. You're thinking, what's calcium carbonate? Well, did you know that calcium carbonate is the exact same thing as limestone? I know you've seen limestone before because in Ohio, we have a lot of limestone. And limestone is that kind of whitish gray rock that you see outside a lot, probably in driveways. We also use it to make things like concrete and other building materials. Believe it or not, calcium carbonate is even put in your toothpaste. Can you believe that? So there are lots of uses for calcium carbonate. And when we're done cracking eggs, we have a lot of eggshells left over. So let's think of some fun things that we can do with the eggshells to be a little bit more environmentally sustainable in Ohio. Let's take a look. Today on ChickQuest Adventures, we're going to go ahead and create some chalk. Now here's a piece of chalk that I made a few days ago. You can see that there's still some eggshells in there. Let me get it a little closer to the camera. We're going to take some finely ground eggshells and some flour and some water, and we're going to create chalk. This is how a lot of chalk is actually made, by using calcium carbonate and water and products like flour. The first thing we have to do is to take some eggshells in my mortar and pestle, or you could use maybe a round rolling pin at home, something like that. And we're going to go ahead and really pulverize those eggshells so that we can make sure they are as fine as possible, almost like flour. So you'd want to go around and around and around till you really had difficulty in finding any pieces of eggshells left. Okay, once I've done that, I'm going to take a teaspoon of that and put it in a bowl. Let me get it all brought together here. It takes a lot of eggshells to make a teaspoonful. Look at that. Okay, I would say about 6 eggshells will give you enough for a few pieces of chalk. Let me move this out of the way. Wow. All right, once I get that done, I'm going to put my ground up eggshells in a bowl. Then I'm going to go ahead and add the same amount of flour. So 1 teaspoon. When I get that done, I want to mix it up really well, as much as possible. This is kind of fun. It reminds me of cooking in the kitchen with my mom when I was younger. Now I get to make chalk with you. So before I do anything else, this is what my chalk looks like. The next step is to take the same amount of water, a teaspoon. Hot water is best, but if you don't have it, it'll be all right. And add it really quick to this mixture. It'll make a thicker paste, and it'll be pretty wet. Everybody see that? Uh-oh, mine's so loose that I'm going to add a little bit more flour. All right, that's what I want to see, a little bit of paste. Maybe a few more eggshell pieces. I don't know what's going on here, but it's having a hard time setting up. You know, science is like that. Science doesn't always go the way you expect it to. So that's the cool thing, is it leads to more questions. Once we get this mixed up, you guys, we're going to go ahead and get a paper towel, and we're going to roll it out and help to take some of the liquid out. This chalk will take a few days to set up. Here's a piece of paper towel, and I'm going to put that mixture on my paper towel. It's a little sticky, but that's all right. Use the paper towel to help take some of that moisture out by patting it just like this. Uh-oh, it's a little gummy still. What you want to do is start to roll it back and forth. Once you start to roll it back and forth, what you're going to get, you guys, after it dries out, is a piece of chalk that looks just like this. So if you want a piece of chalk that's bigger, you'd have to double up your recipe, right? This piece of chalk is only 2 days old and it still needs to dry out some. So if you're making a piece of chalk, remember, it'll take about a week. When you're done, you can take your chalk and go out on your sidewalk and do some math problems. How cool is that? Or maybe write a poem about chickens. Okay, we can see that it's starting to dry up in there, you guys. So let's set that aside. and let the moisture evaporate out. Okay, there's lots of other things you guys can do with eggs. One of my favorite things is to use eggshells in the garden. Because they're calcium carbonate, eggshells are a really good calcium supplier for plants like tomatoes. Tomatoes love eggshells. They like calcium, and if there's any of the liquid egg inside, they like the sulfur too. All you have to do is take an eggshell and crack it at the top and put some dirt in there and plant a seed. In a couple of weeks, you'll have a tomato plant just like I do. Before you plant it in the garden though, crack the bottom so the roots can come on out, okay? If you want to do this at home, remember, all you need is an empty eggshell. And you can put some good soil in there and you can plant a seed and surprise your parents later on. Okay, you guys, I've had a great time here today with you. Thank you so much for joining us at ChickQuest Adventures. I've had an excellent time talking to you today. Remember, this is sponsored by Grow Next Gen, and you can go to grownextgen.org to find more resources about ChickQuest and science. Take care.